and welcome to the third episode of the Women's Meta. I'm your host, Jackson Meyer, also known as East, and today we are back with another live audience. We are not going to go back to Zoom, hopefully, for the remainder of the series, but thank you so much for being here, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Deleon, otherwise known as Annaellz or Kira, which is my gamer tag. I am the esports graduate assistant at Texas A&M University San Antonio. Most of what I do for the program is programming, content creation, management of the facility, and some of the teams.
Yeah. And so I think just a way to kind of start this off is to let everybody know, how did you get into gaming?
It was always a thing that I kind of did when I was younger, just as everybody else did. I played a lot of video games with my dad, not really PC or anything competitive like FPS games. It was actually a lot of horror games, which is a funny story for a lot of people. They're like, as a kid, you played horror games? That's kind of no censorship involved. Games, so. But that's pretty much how I got into gaming, and I guess it kind of, as I grew up, it transferred into esports as I got older.
All right.
Yep.
What would you say was like your first esport that you got really into?
As a competitive game, it actually wasn't until Overwatch that I started kind of taking a game seriously. It started out on console, and I think I only ever really got to like gold. I think that was my peak rank. And once I transferred over to console, I kind of stopped playing competitive games again. And then once Valorant came out, a whole bunch of my friends played Valorant, and I think gold again is the highest I ever peaked rank-wise. So.
Just a question, kind of going back to one of the earlier episodes where we had actually two guests from Trinity University that came in. They were both saying that they both had, I guess, a male influence that brought them into the space. Was this gaming something that you just found by yourself and you're like, this is what I want to do? Or did you have like an older brother, as one of our guests had an older brother, the other one had their boyfriend that kind of bring them in and or like showed them the world of gaming? Did you get it by yourself, or did you have that male figure to kind of lead you in? I
was kind of the same, where I had a male figure kind of bring me in. I was interested in games myself, but growing up, my older cousins actually babysat me and my sister, and a common thing to kind of keep us distracted and keep us like at bay was that he would play video games and we would watch him. And that kind of turned into me asking my dad, like, oh, I want a PS2 of my own. And he ended up buying me a PS2, but it would be the same thing where sometimes I would play, but then sometimes I would watch him play. And I think that also goes back to me mainly playing horror games. My dad was really into horror games, like the original Resident Evil franchise, the original Silent Hill franchise, so we would play those together. So I did have a male influence kind of bring me into gaming.
Yeah, that's cool. Just it seemed like that was more of a common trend. It's almost like it's not encouraged or like not supported or
yeah,
in a way. But
I agree.
It's weird to see, I guess, a woman like on their own come into the world.
Yeah, especially at like a young age. Yeah. It's not like they're automatically like, I like video games. Yeah. And if it is, I do remember having a PC, not necessarily a PC, it was like an old broken down computer that my mom had given me when she got a new one, and it wasn't even connected to the internet. And they would buy me like CD-ROMs. I guess that's how old I am. Sorry, podcast. They would buy me CD-ROMs of like the learning kind of games, like the kindergarten games, or like Barbie Pet Rescue. And those were like my first like PC games, but it's not like they were full length like story mode games or like competitive games.
I think it's a good introduction to kind of start things off, and now kind of moving over into the collegiate esports scene, which is both something that you and I are both heavily into for our universities. And then kind of just start things off, it's kind of an interesting statistic that out of all the collegiate players that are out there, especially with college esports growing at such a tremendous rate, it almost seems like every time I look at LinkedIn for jobs, there's always like another university that's getting into this field.
Adding a program.
People. Yeah, adding a program. But out of a recent study, I think it was done this year actually, that only 8.2% of college esports players are women, and that number gets even worse when it comes to people who are actually like coaches, managers, coordinators. Like yourself.
As you get higher, it's kind of harder to like leap those boundaries.
Yeah, and so it's actually only 2.3% for that statistic as well, and so definitely a minority in the group as well. And so,
definitely.
Kind of just asked in general, what's your experience about being a woman in the scene, about being in, I guess, in a high leadership position at your university?
I kind of got lucky where I came into the program before it was even like a solid varsity program at our university. I was one of the student reps on kind of a athletic committee when athletics was being brought to our campus. And so I had an interest in gaming already. I think I was already looking into internships at different gaming companies, at different like content creation companies. And my boss, Art Alagi, he's the director of recreational sports at Tamusa. He kind of knew about that and knew that I was looking at stuff, so he asked me to be a student representative for esports specifically in the athletic committee. And so I was flown out to NACE, the National Association of Collegiate Esports, for people that don't know what NACE stands for. I was flown out to there for about a week. I did a whole bunch of research on how to bring a varsity program to a campus, how to develop different teams and bring on, obviously, hire head coaches and things like that. So I think it was just timing. I got lucky that my boss took an interest in what I was interested in and was gracious enough to ask me to be a student representative. And from there, after I graduated, I think I was only a representative for about maybe a year until I had graduated. But it was kind of a thing where like, oh, I've done all this research and work. I don't actually get to see the team blossom and become an actual varsity program. But he had kind of convinced me to go into a master's program. And it made sense. I'm studying an MBA right now, so for business, it kind of makes sense to get an MBA. It's like a good kind of program to go into.
Well, yeah.
You might as well. So if I had extended 2 years and gone into a master's program, I would be able to work for our varsity team. And that's what I ended up doing. So that's kind of how I became the esports graduate assistant for our campus. And yeah, it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, it's one of those rough things with at least collegiate esports, especially how everyone's like kind of building a program right now. We're at the point now where like we're finally about to build a program, and I'm about to graduate.
Yeah.
So, like I'm not going to be able to see anything, and so hopefully they kind of bring me back, and I can at least similar to you how I can kind of see and like work with the program as it
actually becomes a solid program.
Hopefully that's kind of something that would happen. But do you think that you would have, I guess, got in the position if there was already a program involved, or was it something the fact that it started up was such a huge influence to you?
I think the fact that I was there from the beginning to help out did play a factor. Not saying that they would have like seen me and pushed me away like, nah, we don't need any help from you. Not in like a negative light, but seeing now 2 years later, now that the program is actually in full swing, we have like 9 teams, there's 50 members, there's pro staff that are involved. And we have people come to us all the time like, do you need help? Do you need workers? Do you need content creators? There's even some women that come to us and they're like, I want to know about facility management. I want to know about team management. And we just don't have positions for them. It's not like esports is still kind of in that area where it's a big trending thing, but there's not enough support for it. So rather than it being like, no, we don't want your help, it's more like we don't have the space for it.
Yeah. Or we don't have at least the money or
there's not enough resources to give everybody that wants a job.
Yeah, there's a lot of so I think it's just weird in esports. There's a lot of like positions that are kind of just like you do everything. Like in this little section, like you are the manager, you're the coordinator, you do all this, you find teams, you find hiring, like you do all this, and it's not like I guess in other industries are like I guess more fleshed out where you have a person for this, you have a person for this. As much as I think we're going to get there,
it's just not there yet.
It's not there right now.
I can tell you now. That's pretty much my job for the team. Is like, you know, a graduate assistant. Usually for any other department or program, they have certain objectives, certain goals, certain like standards that they meet for their job. Mine is like you do what we need you to do when we need you to do it. So that's why whenever I have to describe like, oh, what's your job description? I'm like, well, I have to do facility management and operations and programming and content crew and all of this other stuff that goes along with managing a team.
I think it's also a great position to be in, and it seems like you're having a great time over there. I'm wondering if you want to share it on anything like that, if there's any like negatives that come to it. Is there any have you had any issues, I guess, with being a female in a leadership position in your school or in your university?
I don't want to say necessarily in the university itself, but there is some times where I go out and meet other esports professionals or other people that want to get into esports, and sometimes it feels like they know more than me, maybe because like they've been in it longer, it's been more accepted for them to be in these kinds of positions, so they're given resources more easily. For me, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's like a thing, or like, oh, I didn't know that. So sometimes it feels like maybe I should, like maybe I don't know as much as the guys do inside the industry.
I guess also, like, when did you start competitive? Like, you said Overwatch was the first one. It was like 2016 or so.
Yeah, it came out in 2016. Yeah.
Okay.
I started playing it when the game came out, so I would say about 2016.
Yeah, and even then, like, because I mean, Overwatch isn't like the most popular, I guess, or the most or the biggest sports scene either, and in comparison to like CS:GO or League of Legends, where are just so much bigger. In a lot of cases, those games are, you know, early 2000s, 2010.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
League of Legends, they've been going for the longest time, and I think even for guys who probably play more of those competitive sports at a younger age, they know the scene. They've seen the scene grow for 10 years. I think that's how kind of I've been into League of Legends, where I started. I've seen the scene since I'm even late. Like I was there in season 6, and we're at season 11 right now, going to beat season 12. And it's like I've seen it grow for 6 years, and I've seen all these changes and things like that. And so I have almost a knowledge of time in a way that maybe somebody who kind of gets into it a little bit later or is not so accepted to do it as a young age. They don't get to see the progression of their game kind of move on.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a time thing. I know I can't quote research directly straight from my brain. I don't have like my computer in front of me, but I know that usually the stigma behind girls being a little bit lower tiered or lower ranked, however you want to call it, lower skilled, is usually a matter of time. Guys usually start video games at a much younger age than girls do, and so naturally it's about the hours of time that you put into a video game. The hours that you probably played on any kind of video game is probably a lot more than mine, and so that's along with the knowledge gap, it's that skill gap too. That's like it's a matter of time, a time difference.
Well, you definitely have me beat on the horror game aspect because I am just completely
I do.
horrible. I'm completely horrible with horror
That's
games.
something I can flex amongst all of the esports team.
We just need a competitive horror game to come.
That's what I'm saying. Resident Evil.
Yeah, Resident Evil.
Time to get on it.
You get on it. Dead by Daylight or really
That's what I'm saying. Actually, Mark on our content crew kind of has me beat on Dead by Daylight for sure.
I guess also kind of coming into looking at positives and negatives, is there any like, I guess, pressure on you to perform well as being a woman in the leadership or being in such a high position space in your university?
In my university specifically, I want to talk about my own personal experience. So it might be different for other people. For my university specifically, everyone has always been really supportive of me and what I want to do inside the program. The head coach has been supportive, our director has been supportive, all of the teams have been supportive about what I want to do. I think it's more like pressure from myself. Like I don't want to seem uneducated when it comes to the industry. I don't really want to like seem weaker, I guess is the word. I'm not too sure how to describe it.
A more positive image.
Yeah, especially since I'm only a grad assistant. It's not like I'm an assistant coach. It's not like I'm a full-time professional staff. There is still a head coach that I have to get approval for most things by. So I think it's more pressure from myself than anyone else that I'm like, I have to do well inside this industry to make it farther, kind of thing.
We had a couple interesting comments from some of our earlier guests that were saying like, whenever they kind of compete and they're in a new space or whatever, they feel some pressure in a way of like, almost feel like looked down, like that they were a girl. Like if they're competing, they want to like prove that like, oh, I'm strong too.
I'm
like
better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm better. Like I want to prove that like even if I don't win, like I can still be competitive and I can still go toe to toe with some of the higher up.
Yeah, I definitely grinded Valorant for a few months just to get better because. In all good fun, you know, like whenever you play video games, people are like, you're so bad. I'm like, don't tell me that. I can't take it. I'm so competitive. So I grinded Valorant for, I want to say like what, 4 or 5 months, something like that. Up until, because I think I started my rank was like tinfoil. It was like, it was so bad. I was just like, well, I'm just having fun with my friends. It doesn't matter what my rank is. And then we started like the whole lobby banter that was like, you're bad, bad, mad cause bad. And I was like, I can't let this pass. So I would like grind it every single night for like 2 or 3 months straight when like there was no classes, we were on winter or summer break or something like that. So I got up from like, I think it was like Iron 2 or something like that, all the way to like Silver 3. And so by the time we had like another community night or another whatever we had, another tournament, whatever, I was way better than I was before, so everybody was like, oh wait, she's not bad anymore. So definitely pressure from myself.
And we had one of the guests as well came over and was saying like she felt a lot more comfortable playing with like in that lobby sense of like a bunch of you guys because we were all playing like League of Legends together and
Yeah.
that's a hard game to learn, especially coming into it. There's a lot to.
I
The
know.
tutorial is horrible. They need to fix that, right? But like, I think same thing with Valorant. If you're not into a competitive shooter, there's a lot you need to learn coming
Yeah.
into it, and there's a lot
I know.
that's really really hard. And some of it is just like skill. You just have to grind the game. There's not
Yeah, there
much
was. I
you can
had
learn.
not played like coming from Overwatch to Valorant, and I had never played CS:GO. I had never played like any other type of FPS, or at least seriously. Like learning Valorant, I was like, I don't know what's going on at all times.
You know, 100 Thieves when they started had the same issue. I think they brought like 5 Overwatch players into the scene, and then they very quickly did not end up being 6 Overwatch players that stayed.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Exactly. But kind of moving a little bit forward into just the conversation is like you've definitely come back. You like esports enough to definitely come back and continue your master's degree and continue your management position over at Texas A&M San Antonio. Do you think you want to continue esports outside of the collegiate scene?
It's definitely something that I thought about. I know that I've talked to our head coach about different positions. He's worked at different universities for their collegiate programs, and we've even talked about touring professional spaces like, and I think it's NV up in Dallas. Overwatch has a Blizzard headquarters in Austin. There's different things that we've talked about looking at professional development wise. So it's something that I've thought about. It's not something concrete though. Obviously, since it's a emerging, I guess, industry, especially in Texas, it's kind of limited, not only job wise but resource wise. So the work that you would do is like this much compared to the pay being that much. So it's like an option, but it's something that I'm not too
if
sure.
If it shows up, then
Yeah.
that's cool, something to pursue. But if it doesn't, then you're not gonna like look for it in the
Yeah.
future. And so actually, I know in San Antonio there, I think the mayor's putting a whole bunch of like money into the innovation center, and so we have the new esports arena that's going to be. Is it this year? Or next semester? When is it?
It should be sometime early next semester, next year sometime. I'm not exactly sure when like the actual date is. I know that they're going to have like a huge opening and they're going to be inviting people to like inviting teams to come by. We're already like talking to them and stuff like that. I don't know if I could say that.
I mean, it linked to any article that is available will just be right over here that you can check out. Yeah. So I think that's definitely going to be a nice opportunity to just see more resources come in. And
yeah, I think it'd definitely be cool. It's definitely a stepping stone, especially for San Antonio. I think it's been kind of a long time coming that the city needs a huge tech boom.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping that this is our time.
Yeah, hopefully we'll work onto that. Kind of moving forward a little bit. We're going to take a kind of hard ride here on this one.
No worries.
You're a Twitch streamer.
I am.
Yeah.
I knew this question was gonna pop up when you sent me the little talking points. I was like, am I gonna have to talk about me streaming?
Just
kind of awkward.
You can share whatever you want to on this point. You don't have to talk into full detail as well. But we actually had a huge section in the last podcast, which will also be linked right over there, about Twitch streamers as a whole, where very positive, lots of positives and lots of negatives for women on Twitch streaming as well. And I think it's no better to ask them about that than someone who's actually.
Yeah, I do. I did actively stream about 2 or 3 times a week until, this semester. I think this semester was probably my hardest in school, so I kind of tended to focus more on school than hobbies and things like that. So I was a horror streamer for a few months before this semester. I do plan on picking it back up again. But it's something that I did do regularly, and for those that want to know, it's Annaellz on Twitch. Kind of awkward.
Yeah, link will be also in the description, and will also be on the screen so you can check it out.
But yeah, I was I want to say like semi-serious about it. Like, it wasn't just like a hobby where I would like pop up the stream and like play whatever I wanted. Like, I actually did put a little bit of like thought into it, a little bit of production into it. Like, I bought special lighting, I bought like a ring light, I bought like high-end like webcam and like mic, a mic and stuff like that, and I really tried to like make my setup look nice and transitions and screens and everything. Like I actually did take it seriously just because I think it's actually a pretty normal trend that rather than the competitive scene, a lot of women kind of go towards the content creation. It's something that I've seen, you know, in the professional scene and in our own like varsity program, a lot of women tend to go towards the content creation. Maybe it's a little less nerve-wracking, kind of weird since, I mean, you have to talk to a camera and kind of talk to yourself. So I guess that's why I'm kind of more comfortable here than I thought I would be. It's kind of like it's like a natural state of being now that I'm just in front of cameras. But yeah, I used to stream on Twitch pretty regularly, and actually my mod is behind the camera right now. He mods for my Twitch stream.
Then kind of going a little bit more into the Twitch stream. One of the issues I think we talked about, the positive is just being one, is a space for women to be in there, to be creative and be seen. And a lot of times, organizations like your Con9 or 100 Thieves, they're looking at these streamers as well, and that's how they're going to get the job, because all your views or whatever that you, or the content production that you make is going to be valuable to them.
Yeah.
And that's how they kind of get a lot of women, I think, into the actual esports scene, is through the content creation, as you were saying. Not necessarily, or now we're starting to get a little bit more into the actual professional esports players. But again, as you were saying, that seems to be a good place for the content creation to be coming in. However, it takes a lot to get to that position of having your high views or whatever like that. And I think that's kind of worse towards the negative of the Twitch as well, is that there's a lot of women out there that you start getting the hot tub stream game. You can start getting the
whatever
ASMR,
gets views.
Whatever gets views to the target audience of young growing males kind of into the scene.
Yeah, I think it definitely kind of, not to sound too pretentious, but it definitely plays into the media kind of objectifying women type of thing. Like, if this is the content that people want to see, why wouldn't I make this content? But then again, it's kind of a negative where, why is it expected that I have to do a hot tub stream? I think I was even asked to do a hot tub stream on my own Twitch channel whenever I was raising money for something. Someone was like, oh, well, why, like, as a reward, like, if you get this X amount of money from donations, like, why don't you do a hot tub stream? And I'm like, I'll do a cosplay stream, and that's the most I'll do. But it's kind of strange that in media specifically, and we see it a lot with female Twitch streamers, that the objectification of women, it's like almost expected. And even with cosplaying, like,
it's the same thing.
Like people were asking me to cosplay certain characters that they wanted to see, so it's interesting to see why, like, why is that in something that's expected of streamers?
Like, it's cool to do it and everything like that. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't do a cosplay stream or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
But it's also the intent of why people are asking you to do the cosplay stream.
Well, what's the meaning behind
it's
this?
Like, I'm cool to do it if, like, we can get some donations.
Yeah, it's not like the costume that I did cosplay was, you know, inappropriate or any way. I'm pretty sure I was like fully covered in like multiple layers of like robes and clothing.
I actually think I tuned into that one. I think I like pulled it up. I was just like, oh, she's doing that. I loaded up and you had the whole cosplay. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Tuned in for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but it was definitely something that it was like, I think, asked of me to do, and there was different characters that everybody was asking for. So, yep, kind of strange. So there is like negatives where people ask certain things, like they ask for a hot tub stream, they ask for cosplay streams. There's definitely other weird things that have happened in my chat. Don't know if it's appropriate to just talk about, but definitely weird things where people should be getting banned for in some chats.
You got the moderator.
And that's the mod's job.
Flexing his power over everybody there. And in any case, I think it's also important for if any woman who wants to go into Twitch, find someone to. If you definitely get big enough, that is definitely something that.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I had thought about when I first started streaming. When I first started, I was like, well, only my friends are gonna watch me. Like, it's not like something I thought about. Like, oh, I definitely need a mod in case it gets a little too crazy. But it wasn't until someone came into my chat and they were just being really inappropriate about just different things, just saying random stuff, and it was my brother-in-law that was like, why are they doing this? And so, yeah, I don't think he became a mod, but he was like, he would actively watch my streams, him and my sister. And then eventually some of my friends, like the mod behind the camera, and other people in the esports program, they kind of became mods for me. So
I think it's also hard when Twitch doesn't really do much to stop it, and there's not a lot they really can do.
yeah, it's
way.
kind of that thing where I'm behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
No one knows who I am.
like
I can hide my identity.
It's
Kind
like,
of
it
thing.
can happen at any point in time. Like they can put bans on it, but at the end of the day, they can just make another account and go to the
Yeah.
exact same stream because you know if you have a schedule, you're going to be streaming at this time every day.
Yeah,
or every
exactly.
2 times a week, 3 times a week, and so there's not a lot they can do there. And even we talked a little bit about the women who actually do the hot tub streams or like do doing it for content. It gets heavily supported by Twitch, is what we kind of came to the conclusion of. Where it's definitely not something that like you shouldn't do it because like if you could do it and make a lot of money, then it's like obviously you'd be stupid not to do it in a way. Like it's
Yeah.
it's almost.
I've kind of
fair
had the
in a
same
way.
thoughts about it where, you know, people have, I think we had a discussion on my own Twitch stream where people were like, what do you think about the hot tub streams? I think this was after someone had asked me, like, would you ever do a hot tub stream? And I said, personally, no. Like, I wouldn't just because I'm shy. But I wouldn't do it because I'm shy, but they had asked me, what are your thoughts about other people that do? Like, do you not like it? Do you disapprove of it? And I don't disapprove of it. And it was kind of the silly kind of answer of like, if she's getting money, I support it kind of thing. Because if there's an audience out there, then there is a chance for women to kind of like take back that kind of power, I guess. And so if they feel confident enough that they feel like they can, I don't want to say exploit that audience because that's not the right word. Kind of. I don't want to say it in like a negative light. They know who their audience is, and I mean, if there's an audience for it and they're willing to pay, like, why not? Why not? I'm just too shy to do it.
But it's kind of like at the end of the day where they're trying to discuss is like, was this actually hurting a lot more of women's image who are trying to get into the esports scene? And it's more of the content creators like you yourself who are actually do horror games, or like they actually play the video games, and those are the stuff that like your organizations are really looking for more than a hot tub streamer in a way. And a lot of times they can't get seen just due to the algorithm that comes through.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever, at least for my genre of streaming, like horror streaming, I rarely see women on the front page for it, and it's not something that I really like expect to like boom on Twitch for. It was always something that I just did for fun. Like it's not something where I was like, I'm gonna take this seriously and it's gonna become my full-time job. It was always just something I did for fun, and I think that's kind of the mindset that a lot of other people kind of go into Twitch for, especially women, where they're just kind of like, well, this is just for fun. I just want to play games with my friends, kind of thing.
I think it's actually a really good transition to the next topic of women. I feel are more comfortable to staying on the casual side of gaming versus actually looking for professions or looking for higher positioning roles. And I think that's some example of why you have 8.2% of people who are women who are actually players versus 2.3 who are actually in positions
in
of power.
higher positions.
And the number gets a little bit better into just people like part of clubs and content creation. I think spans a lot more than just 8.2%. And at least from other findings we found from other podcasts and some research, it seems to be a lot more comfortable for women. They don't want to almost be seen in the scene, or they don't want to be judged in that way. And I think some of it comes to toxicity that men have. I'm sure you experienced it on Valorant.
I definitely did. It's kind of funny because, and actually, our mod behind the camera can even attest to it. So my original gamer tag was Pink Punk, and it was very obvious that, oh, this is a girl that's playing. Her name her name and all this stuff, and I didn't use VC because I didn't want people to know I was a girl. But it was very obvious, like, oh, okay, this is a girl behind the character. The second I changed it to Kira, our teammates were exceptionally nicer to me. Like, even if I messed up, they're like, oh, no, nice job, Kira, nice job. And, you know, it's kind of like a gender-neutral name. It's from an anime, so it's just like kind of like, oh, well, nice job. It was exceptionally better. And I think that's why a lot of women kind of stick to casual games, not really competitive, or even if they do play competitive. Me and a lot of other girls that I know that play competitively don't use like public VCs. They use Discord with their friends. They don't really talk a lot inside game. They'd prefer to type or use pings and things like that. And I think it does, toxicity in the community, not only just Valorant, but other games, kind of contribute to those kind of things, kind of characteristics or attributes that women tend to have in gaming.
Which is, I mean, a lot of those professional games or those like Valorant and League of Legends, any of that, you need like voice chat in that. That's not,
Yeah.
communicating with ping is like really rough to like, especially if you are going to go to the highest level possible and you're looking to get into a team.
Yeah.
Like you definitely need it, and you need that communication skill, especially if you're going to any organization to pick you up.
And I think that's kind of the problem that we've had with, I don't want to say a lot of women trying out for our team, because we do have girls on our team. We have, I think 3 or 4, mainly on Overwatch, but it's not just skill level that you look at. It's how do you work with your teammates? How do you communicate? Can you call plays as they're going on within the game? And that's kind of an issue that women in gaming have, because they would prefer to just use pings, use type. It's kind of awkward to like say things out loud.
Would you say even like if they had like a call or like they had one to make a play or whatever, would it be listened to as much versus like if a guy would call the same play on?
It all depends on how your voice is, how you speak as a person. So, there's some girls on our team that are very outspoken, like they're very heard inside those VCs. But say on another team where I would try to use me as an example, but I think I'm pretty loud actually. But if you have like a softer voice, or if you're not even like shy, just if your voice is naturally like, oh, I saw something here, or like enemy in spawn, like if it's softer naturally, and this can be a guy or a girl, naturally the human brain is kind of like conditioned to pass over it or not take it as seriously. So someone who has a monotone or softer voice compared to someone who has a more aggressive or louder voice, they're heard differently, or people react to them differently.
And just kind of the way, like, practice speaking a little bit more confident as well. If there are going to be toxic people that are going to try to shut that down, ignore it as best as you can. Really.
Yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, it's like you probably know this was the right play, and if they're not going to listen to you, then I mean, take your 15 LP loss or whatever, move on. Like, you're probably never going to see those 5 people that you were played with again.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, eventually, if you know that was the right play and you know that's what you need to do next time, that's something that you're going to probably get better at. And I think a lot of toxicity gets better when you are not in that lower elo side of it.
Yeah, I think that's actually, like, there's actual research with that. If you're in a higher elo, there tends to be hopefully less toxicity, especially from like male to female, like males who are in a high elo with females who are in a high elo. The chemistry and the teamwork is actually way better than if you had men in a low elo and females in a low elo. The toxicity within those groups are like exceptionally high.
I think it's also just, there's a lot of people in the elo, like I've had the experience too, where I'm just like, oh, I'm better than this rank that they're getting. Like, I don't deserve to be here. My teammates are trash. Like,
yeah, like you definitely try to blame it on other teammates, and if it happens to be a female, for some reason, some men kind of go in on that and use that as they use that as the excuse of like, this is why I'm stuck in a low elo, because I get stuck with teammates like you, and it's like,
I think when you're upper, because I think even we talked about it earlier, where there's definitely a sort of line that a lot of women feel like that if they can cross that line to the point of respect by not even just males, but just the community in general, like if you pass that line, then you're respected by people in that community. That's something comfortable, that's something great, and that's something you want to be a part of. But if they don't feel like they can pass that line, they just want to stick to casual, because if they're not going to ever be respected in that way, or they don't feel like they're going to be respected in that way, then why would you? Like, I wouldn't want to do
like, why try so hard for this much respect or this much recognition?
And a lot of times it's, like, again, the male figure is like, if you play with a bunch of guys or you're just like really good friends or whatever, like, you kind of just get your respect there, and that's all really the only thing that's important. It's like, as long as
it's comfortable.
And they see you're improving, they're obviously going to say like, oh, great job, like you did this, like really good play, yada yada. And of course, there's going to be, as you were saying, lobby banter that goes back and forth. And that's going to be any friend group. That just happens. But that's not the same toxicity when they're just like, oh, you're bad, versus some random dude online who's going to really
rip you a new one and be like,
new one for like, oh, how did you miss that shot or anything along that. But I think it's kind of a interesting way to see almost how do we remove that line of respect, and is that line going to be the way that we can increase that 2.3% of women coming into management positions in the scene? Because
I think the more comfortable that women are in casual or competitive gaming, the more they're going to explore it, exactly like their male counterparts, where if it's a hobby and they like it and they're getting good at it, they're obviously going to look at other opportunities, whether it's management, whether it's pro scene, whatever it is. They're going to be the exact same, where once they get good at these games, they're going to look at other avenues, content creation, management, pro scenes, and be more comfortable trying to get into those, exactly like their male counterparts.
You know, it's kind of interesting. It seems like every podcast, like every episode that's been here so far, it's almost been the consensus of inviting women into the scene through the casual side of aspects of it. So it's like if you have a Smash tournament, throw a casual bracket as well into it, because then they'll come in and they'll play, or they'll play with some items. Or it's something a little bit more with less pressure. There's not that line there anymore. That's like, oh, if I do that, like I'm just going with friends. It's like I want to see, or I can watch my friends play, or if they get interested into that, or they like, oh, that was so much fun. Like I can check out YouTube or like best Smash Ultimate plays or best like Valorant 1v5 clutches. Kind of
That's definitely what we kind of did in our program, where there's the competitive scene, but then there's the content creation scene where you stream for fun. You're not affiliated with the competitive scene at all. You're not expected to sub in for them. You're your own, little program within the team. And once we started taking applications for the content creation program, we saw applications for women like rise exceptionally. I'm not too sure about the actual percentage, but whether we did take them onto the streamer program or not, we were glad that a lot more women showed interest in esports, because it showed that they actually are on campus and they're actually playing.
There's interest.
They're playing these games on campus, but they don't want to be in the competitive teams. They'd rather just be casual. But we've always given them the option of, well, once you're more comfortable, playing the game, once you meet everybody in the program, once you're more comfortable with the team, like just because you're a streamer and you're not on the competitive side doesn't mean you can't talk to the team, you can't play with them. Once you're more comfortable, if you feel like you want to try out, that's still an option for you. So it's not, our content creation program is kind of that casual side of like, well, once you get more comfortable, if you want to try out for a team, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, there's actually a statistic that was kind of the whole purpose of the first episode that we did on this podcast. I don't necessarily fully remember the numbers, but I think it was like 58% of women that are the ages of like, I think it's like 19 to like 29 or whatever that's 10 years of age right there. 58% of them are actually play a competitive esport, or like a game that is considered to be a high caliber esport. So it'd be like your Valorant, CSGO, League of Legends, etc. However, when you looked at further into that statistic, I think it was like 9% or something. It was very
small.
That would consider themselves gamers. They would like actually have that label onto them. And we talk a lot about the stigma that might come for a woman to be considered a gamer, or not necessarily as accepted or talked about as, I think we talked about a little bit earlier. Just I don't think no one would pursue that by themselves. It kind of almost seemed like that male world that invited them.
Yeah, there was something else that kind of like, oh, well, I'm not a gamer, my boyfriend is, or I'm not a gamer, my dad is. I mean, if you play a game and you like it, it's not like you have to put a label on it, but like you enjoy video games, and I think that's good enough, you know what I mean?
I almost think you guys do a really good job with the content creation scene of coming in, especially if you're saying that that's how many more women that got interested into the scene. And so it's like, it almost seems like the formula is like, you got to get them, you start with the casual gaming side of it, and just like, again, you remove that line so that nothing has been, there's not that pressure, that initial pressure coming into it. So you kind of keep it casual. Then eventually you're going to find interest in some of them who are like into art, or some of them that are into Twitch streaming, or
video creation, things like that.
Exactly, montages, stuff like that, podcasting even. They can come and have a space for that, and that's almost how now you're not just a casual fan, you're actually part of the industry, you're actually creating something into this. And then if you get really good at that, eventually you're going to move up into this, you're going to move up in positionings, and that might be the way that now we can get women from I guess younger age, from like teenagers to college kids as well, to actually get them moving into
those spaces. Yeah.
Because we're seeing a massive increase in all esports scenes, in like at the professional level, and it almost seems like it's great that we see these women in there. Again, they're still being berated, so there's still the toxicity of like actually
there's still those barriers we have to push through.
There's still the barriers that we're going to have to cross, and I've said it many times before, I don't think we're going to get finished, we're going to solve that anytime soon, but we are getting definitely better at it. And this might be the way to do it, is that if we can encourage them at a younger age, to the teenage and college scene, have these programs for them to come in and have them be the content creators or be the professional players that they want to be. Eventually, they will look for organizations like 100 Thieves, that they will look into the actual professional scene and see what they can do, and hopefully they can get picked up. And again, you move up the ladder slowly.
I feel like the more positions, rather than competitive, that are more open, more accepting, more spotlighted, I suppose is the word. More women are going to want to move into those, rather than, oh, there's a pro team, I'm going to try out for them.
It almost seems like getting it through that side of it is just like, oh, that's a cool team, I want to try to get into that in a way. But, I think that's all we have time for today. That was obviously a great conversation. Kind of went a little bit into, talked about collegiate esports and kind of moved away from it as well. Still talking about the Twitch, kind of wrapped up that conversation from last time. And we almost have a plan, I guess, to increase that 2.3%.
Yep, it's something I've been working on and thinking about for a while within our own program. I mean, it's, I think I've had different goals for the teams every semester. I know that this semester it was definitely over, what was our last break? Summer break? Yes. Over summer break, it was one of those things, well, what's my next goal for this semester? I want to increase women's participation, whether it's in our public tournaments, whether it's in content creation, whether it's in the teams. I wanted to increase that percentage and see what I can do. And it was definitely something exactly what we talked about, of making it more casual, not putting so much pressure, making sure everybody on the team is very supportive of bringing more women in. So it's definitely something that I had really put some thought into for our own program.
Thank you so much for coming. It was a great conversation. All of Anna's, anything that she wants to share on social will be right over here for anyone to get. Follow her on Twitch. Don't be that person. Don't be
that person.
Don't do any
my mod will ban you.
Yeah, the mod will ban you. He's looking furious over there. Don't let that happen. But
he's flexing.
Yeah. Again, thank you for joining. It was great.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we can't wait to see everybody in the next episode. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff that you ever want to do. Listen to us on Spotify. And thank you. We'll see you next time. And adios.